What is up, everybody? It's the Bearded Browns podcast. We are live finally. It would not be a Tuesday without something technical happening, right? Either way, this is me, Angel. I'm also here with a couple of other beautiful bearded men. Give it up for my boy Mike and Chad
They named it San Diego.
from San Diego, California. Give it up for them too. That's right. That's right. We have a fun show. I was getting a little nervous because I think we have a pretty good show tonight, and I thought that it wasn't going to come to fruition, but we we did it, Mike. We beat the technical difficulty in the beginning of the show, so hopefully it would just stay there. So this show's action packed. We got some quarterback talk. It's not Cleveland without a quarterback talk, right? We're gonna find out some stats about that. We got free agency, of course. A couple of big news dropped today, specifically about a wide receiver that we thought we were only having for 1 year, but it looks like they put a ring on it. Um, other than that, we're gonna get into it. But first, let me know, guys, how was your weekend? St. Patty's Day weekend. Chad, you know what? You go first because I want to know how they do St. Patty's Day in San Diego.
Not like they do it in Cleveland. And for me, so this was maybe the most mild St. Patrick's Day I've ever had.
Bluetooth
It's
disconnected.
usually just jam packed um, with beer after beer after beer after car bomb or whatever. This year was pretty chill. We went out to we had a big neighborhood event where all the bars, shops, and everything keep themselves open, and a lot of them just give away free snacks, drinks, and it's just a way to get everybody in the neighborhood out to like the business district of the neighborhood.
Mm.
So and that was Saturday. So usually the day that we would go a little bit out of control. But yeah, we just a couple of Irish coffees, a little bit of Jameson, and a couple of drinks, and then Sunday I cooked us up a corned beef brisket dinner.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was great, but I would say probably the mildest of the least hangover worthy St. Patrick's Day I've ever had, and probably a little bit welcomed at this point. But yeah, I've been to Cleveland's, and they kind of are one of those top St. Patty cities. So San Diego, even when I was just a young crazy partier, it was one of the days of the year where you're like, doesn't really live up to what those handful of other cities, Boston, Chicago, Savannah, Cleveland, do. What about you guys?
You can go next, Mike.
I don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to. So my day started about noon. I woke up at 9. I woke up at 4 in the morning, threw the corned beef into the crock pot, and I poured a whole Miller Lite in there with that. Woke up again at like 9. It was great. Went to the store. I didn't start drinking till noon. Went to the store, bought another corned beef, threw another one in, and then go over to my neighbor's house to find out he's got a 5-pound corned beef.
Dang.
So it was endless corned beef and sauerkraut, beers, and then I made a mistake of buying a bottle of Jameson. And yeah, lo and behold, my Monday sucked. It's at work.
Yeah.
It was just horrible. I'm not doing it again.
Until next year, right?
No.
No. We're not doing it again until next St. Patty's Day, and then it'll be all right.
Yeah,
Nah,
we'll see.
I mean, I didn't do really much on St. Patty's Day. Just woke up, went to church, and then went to my father-in-law's house where he cooked his corned beef and all that stuff that I normally won't eat anyways. But I still partaked in the little celebration. Laid back Saturday. Me and Mike and wives went on a little double date. We went to Fathead's Brewery over there in Middleburg. That was fun. We had a little beer, a little bourbon.
That was a good night.
It was fun. We
I
got
would
a
do that
little
again. I didn't drink as much that night as I did on St. Patrick's Day, so it was all right.
Yeah, it was a fun night. Got to meet his wife. He got to meet mine, and we just talked about the Browns for another 2 hours while we let them talk.
That was seriously the night.
Yeah, she was like, "What are you guys talking about?" I was like, "Oh, we were just talking about the Browns." Like, don't you guys do that anyways? I'm like, "Yeah, it's what we do."
Always.
No, other than that, good. Got a little bit of free agency talking a little bit. A lot of moves. I didn't realize how busy the Browns were until I actually looked into it. It was pretty insane. I counted about 10, 11, 12 moves that they made. That pretty interesting. Another big move today. We'll probably go around the league. A little bit of more signings that happened today. Chase Young being one of them. Kind of shocked at that situation. Um, you guys might have any input?
Again, we look forward to every year the Browns playing, and this time of year, a lot of the Browns fans stop paying attention because the season's over, and they don't really
Mm-hmm.
grasp all the stuff that goes on outside of the season. That's where all the magic happens. That's where you get your picks at, and then you got the draft and everything. So, I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, how some of the Browns fans are. Um, there is a lot to talk about. I think that we're doing well for the most part. I think the Browns have this high hope for Jerry Judy that I have high hopes as well. I hope it turns out well. What does that mean for the future and other receivers coming in? That's kind of my only worry point for that, really, as the cap hits right now and all that. Other than that, I like the move. I think the kid's got potential. I think he'll work out well.
Chad, what do you think about the signing of the extension? I should say, not signing.
Well, unexpected. I think we talked about that a little bit last week. I kind of, I'm not shocked that they wanted to do that. I'm sort of shocked that it came together the way it did. I don't know how much detail you want to get in it on the numbers and things like that, but I sort of expected him to at least have to get out there in order for them to be able to put together any numbers. But I like the potential of the player. I think I'm seeing an overwhelming shadow of disappointment in Jerry Judy from all over the place, Denver especially, but all over the NFL. And I think a lot of that comes with a mixture of the fact that he was a wide receiver that came out of a class that had just a couple of super studs come out of the class with him, and a lot of that comes with the fact that his expectations were to do what you want out of a guy you pick in the middle of the first round, which is pretty high for a wide receiver, and he obviously didn't do that. But I look at it through a little bit different lens of the amount we're going to be paying him and the draft compensation we gave up to get him, and all of that tells me that I'm on board. That I think this is a pretty low risk, high potential signing for us.
Yeah, it seemed like for a while that Andrew Berry really tried to go after him. From what I was reading, from the point of his time in the draft to last year, it seemed like as soon as Andrew Berry got his hand on him, he's like, "I'm not letting you go." And I'm kind of surprised that they restructured his contract, then gave him an extension. I thought that was a little weird. Didn't they kind of like, we're just going to give you this much money and save this much off the cap?
I kind of think that was already in the works, to be honest.
Oh,
Because
okay.
how can you restructure somebody and they just barely signed? I mean, you're making money, yes, but how do you do that? I wonder how that does actually work, because you sign a guy for 3 years. What is it? 40? I had rolled
41.
40,
Yeah, it was
41 million guaranteed, with a chance of 53 million. I don't know, man. How do you explain it? 58 million guaranteed. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But it's insane. Yeah, my only discrepancy here is we have not seen the guy play in a Browns uniform yet, and that's kind of my biggest fear, because we really don't know how he's going to work out with the offense. Again, Barry has high hopes. The guy's been wanting him for 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
So let's see what he does. Hopefully that money, cha-ching, inside his little head there just makes him.
So the quarterback that he had in Denver was Drew Lock and then Russ.
And then a couple little
in betweens. So
guys.
my argument would be that, like, well, we've seen what he did in Alabama. And then you get in the NFL and you give him Drew Lock a couple in betweens, and Russ, who seems to him and Peyton seem not to get along at all. So there was always on the different page there, and always when the quarterback and coach are a mess, the receivers are crap rolls downhill. So Denver was a mess basically. So I think they saw that, and I think they do see the value in him. I'm excited about it. I agree with Mike. I think it is weird that they don't want to see him take a snap first. At least wait till one snap in preseason just to see if he can catch the ball first,
Seriously, can y'all agree with me though? It's the Browns' luck. He'll be 4 snaps in, and I'm not going to say it, but
no, don't
knock
say
on wood.
No, but yeah, it seems like they're paying him. It seems like obviously they're going to move on from Cooper after this year, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yes. Chad was actually really excited about re-signing James Prochet.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you have Jerry Jeudy on the signature, and it overshadowed the big signing that you had brought up to me earlier today. Return specialist James Prochet. No, I mean, you said that, and I was like, I guess he's also going to be on the team.
He's only 1 year. Yeah, I mean,
so excited.
Yeah, I mean, how many? Him and Grant, and who else do they have? Didn't they? Oh, who did they get from Buffalo? What's that guy's name? Dang it!
His name is Nyheim Hines.
Nyheim Hines. That's it.
I think those are the two that are going to be battling, right, for return snap. Maybe one kick returns, if that still exists, and one punt returns. But it does feel nice if they both end up on the team, that there's an actual proven options returning, because every year I feel like we either reeling to get one of our slow receivers returning, or we're in some struggle to have a guy who can only do that one thing on the roster because we don't have anyone else to do it.
We'll have David Bell back there by the end of the year. That's who. He's the next man up.
Yeah, terrifying special teams.
He's the next man up. Oh man. All right, we're going to take a quick break, run those ads, then we'll come back and we'll talk about the rest of the stuff that happened before today. And then we'll get into some around the league signings, what you guys were shocked about. Some quarterback from Chicago got traded. Never heard of him. I heard that he has some good potential. Steelers picked him up. I don't know. We'll talk a little about that, but we'll come right back after this.
What is up, everybody? Mike Wilkes here from the Bearded Browns podcast, letting you know that we're going to be working with Mistakes on the Lake Clothing. They have everything you need. Why not check them out? If you want to go to their store, it's 4542 Liberty Avenue in beautiful Vermilion, Ohio. If you want to contact them, their phone number is 440-670-3145. They have everything from Cleveland to Columbus gear. They have Lake Erie gear. Why not check it out? It's all great stuff you can get for your wife, your kids, your newborn. They even have onesies. Shirts that say good moms and dads don't raise Michigan fans, just Ohio stuff, and it's awesome. So be sure to check them out. They have everything you need. Even the candles, custom coasters, can koozies, wine tumblers, phone grips, everything, stickers. It is awesome. Check them out. Do not be the mistake on a lake and regret this decision. Go and check them out.
Yeah, and we're back. Hello, what's up? What's up?
We're back, but Chad is not.
Chad's popped on my screen.
He's on your screen?
Can you hear him?
I can't even hear him.
Oh yeah, he dropped off and then came back.
Wait.
Oh, great. Oh, I see him on YouTube. He's gone. Yeah, Chad, you are no longer on YouTube.
Oh, hold on. I think he's back.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah,
good.
there he is. We're good.
All right, we're good. He's back. Woo. See, it happens. It happens sometimes. It's all about adversity, man. Sometimes you just gotta fight through it.
Mhm.
We as Browns fans know about that adversity.
Too much.
Too much. Yes. Free agency. Mike, anything you want to bring up about, anything the Browns want to sign? Anyone specifically? All the 15 people they seem to sign this year?
I think
Anything?
I'm really most excited about Jordan Hicks, to be honest. That signing is going to be a huge benefactor to the defense. So, with the defense already being, I would say, top 5, hands down, even with some of the people that we did lose, like Walker, I'm fine with it. You totally redeemed yourself, Andrew Berry, with covering your behind, dude. You did. I'm not mad at the guy, and we still got the draft. There's still free agents out there that could be picked up, so I'm not scared just yet. I got this giant thing called hope
Every year.
every year. But Andrew Berry's he's smart. I don't really get scared when he's the one behind the desk making the moves. You know what I mean? Do you guys agree with that, or?
Yeah, I agree. I like the Jordan Hicks move. I also like the Devin Bush signing. I'm wondering how he's going to turn out. I know I think he had an injury last year. I liked him coming out of Michigan, even though he's from Michigan. He played in Michigan. But I feel like that's a high reward pickup there. Hopefully, he's one of those players that come in and play great for 1 year, and then you sign him long term.
That could happen.
Yeah, on your point of Andrew Berry, I still have my questions. I think we've talked about that before. I'm still a little bit curious to see him, a pull a receiver out of the draft who I get a sense can play the game, and B, I'm still just looking forward to all of the trades from the past running their course and us getting to a full draft, first round, second round, third round. I don't need all the extra picks. I don't need 4 5th-rounders. And like he's great at wheel and dealing. I think he's great at moving around and still finding value. I think he's been tremendous at building through free agency, and I think he's done as good of job as any GM in the league right now at getting value in his trades, constantly trading 3rd-rounders, 5th-rounders, 6th-rounders for guys who can come in and contribute. My only question is I just want to see that whole recipe play out in the draft when he has all of his guns. I think the only time we really saw that was his very first year, and he pulled out JOK and Newsome in the first 2 rounds, and then most of that draft felt a little underwhelming. And the contrary, he didn't have or didn't use high picks in the later drafts, but he sort of did better at finding late round value. I'm just waiting for that all to hit at once, where he gets some late round value, gets those early picks and makes use of them. And we can really start looking at some guys who are going to be with us for 5+ years.
Well, we should start seeing that next year as we get our first round picks back. So hopefully they value them and don't get rid of them. Because
I'm counting this as the Deshaun Watson draft. So the last 2 drafts we didn't get a first rounder. This year, I'm just going to say our first rounder is Deshaun. For this year.
And hopefully he'll play the whole year, not
right.
get hurt.
It didn't feel like he was our first rounder that first year because
No.
he was suspended for the most of the season. And then last year I would have slotted him in there, but he played maybe 5 games and then missed. So this year is the year that he is our first rounder and the rest of the draft. So
we also did sign another tight end, that Giovanni Ricci dude. I'm excited to see what he's capable of doing. I thought I wrote down his stats, but I clearly did not. So I'm gonna actually look them up really quick. I think he's more of like a second stringer, but you always need one.
He had a
Yeah,
corner Tony Brown for a year or two.
yeah. You had just after jokingly saying, "Now that we've lost Harrison Bryant, where will we find our next tight end / fullback hybrid?" And then boom,
Boom.
there's that
Yeah.
news story: tight end / fullback Ricci signing with the Browns. It's like that's unbelievable. There's only two, apparently.
And they got him. I wonder if I think they targeted him and got him.
Yeah, he
I'm
had.
sure there's other guys that could jump in at fullback a little bit, but it was
Yeah.
funny that he was actually listed
Mm,
as tight end
yes.
/ fullback.
6'3", 240 pounds, big guy.
Um. So we signed another quarterback named Tyler Huntley. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him. He played for Baltimore.
Who's
Yeah,
that?
he's a I don't know
We've
some
seen him.
quarterback. Yeah, we've seen him a couple of times. What do you guys think about that?
I like it. I do. Not only because it's a guy that's coming out of our division. We took that from Baltimore. That makes me feel kind of good because they don't really have much left. So if Lamar Jackson gets hurt, it's gonna look better on our end. You don't have your best second string. I forget the guys that they do actually still have. I actually saved that. That was on my phone though, so give me 1 second, I believe.
They don't have much.
Yeah,
This was a good backup for him, who played pretty well there. It's not like he was outstanding at quarterback, but if he was, he'd be starting somewhere. But as a backup, he really held it down for them more than once when Lamar was out for an extended period of time. So if nothing else, it's nice to poach from
yeah.
a division rival.
He's
especially from a
3-6
rivalry.
he's 3-6 as a starter. 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 1,957 yards passing. I mean, he did have 3 rushing touchdowns too. So I mean, yeah, good backup.
Yeah, it's odd. It's odd to see the Browns picking up now between Flacco and then Jameis Winston and then Tyler Huntley. So many quarterbacks that don't take care of the ball, because it seems like that was one of the biggest gripes with Baker when he was here was he was reckless with the ball and he made some bad decisions. Maybe they just don't feel so passionate about it out of their backup. They just want somebody that can maybe get the ball in the end zone and keep the offense moving. But as a starter, I felt like that was a big pain point for them in Baker's final 2 years here, or longer than that. But they seem to not be too concerned for the backup.
He is getting the vet minimum, which is 1.8 million. So we're not breaking cap on him. It is a 1-year deal as well. So I'm not too worried about it. Hopefully, we're all hoping Deshaun's going to come in and tear it up, man, because that's what we want the guy to do. But the Jameis Winston thing, 1 year, about 4 mil, and then 4.5 mil in incentives.
Yeah.
I'm not completely against it. I don't hate the guy. I like lobster too, but
Crab legs.
It's so hard
Crab,
not
I'm
to
sorry.
think of that, isn't it? It's
It
so
is.
it's been a decade and I can't get that out of my mind that he
Uh,
did such a dumb thing in college.
He needs to eat, man. They didn't give enough a stipend, man. They probably did. He probably was more
Man,
under the table, but
imagine if
yes.
he was in today's college,
he'd be a 3, 4, $5 million.
he'd be making some money. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he started 80 games. He's 34-64 as a starter. In New Orleans, he was 6-4 as a starter. I mean, he's almost got 100 interceptions, but he's thrown 141 touchdowns. So
It's
I
just
give it a
another example of how
yeah.
much they love failed first round picks somewhere in their roster.
Yeah, they like they like the guy that can throw, and they know if you can throw, you're gonna occasionally throw a pick. But they want a big dude that can throw. I think their problem with Baker was like he's small.
Hmm.
But I didn't think about that. But you're right. They seem to get rid of a quarterback that threw picks only to get backups that throws picks.
So, one thing while we're on the Baker subject, really quick, I did notice his last year here. that so many more passes of his were getting blocked.
Yeah.
So many more from
People
the
were figuring it
defensive
out.
line. So I think now he's realizing that and maybe tossing the ball up a little bit higher, jumping when he
Uh-huh.
throws. I don't know. He's pulling something off, but
I
I'm not
think
mad at that guy either.
the NFC South is going to figure him out too, and he'll have the
I mean, the
typical.
benefit he has is the AFC North figured him out, and when a Bengals and Ravens and Steelers defense figures you out, it's different than when a Falcons
Yeah.
defense figures you out. It's just when the Carolina Panthers figure you out, it doesn't matter because they don't have the guns to stop you anyway. But in the
Yep.
AFC North, if you have a major flaw and it gets figured out,
They're
it's
on
going to
it.
get you.
Well, bye, Angel.
Hey,
He
it
is
wasn't me
gone.
this time.
Yeah. Let's see. I
He's
think
back.
he's back. Or yeah.
I don't know what's going on. It's just the typical Tuesday.
Now you switched around on my screen a little
Yeah.
bit.
Oh, you guys are still in the same spot for the show.
Oh,
so
not for
we're
me.
good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. These are backup quarterbacks, and I think we talked about this last week. If your city is arguing about a backup quarterback,
We're good.
then there's something is right. I would imagine.
It is
Obviously,
it is interesting because if you signing Huntley, are you unsure how ready Watson's going to be for camp? Is that why you sign another quarterback? Because you still got. I always forget that we have DTR on the roster. I don't know why. Maybe because he was underwhelming last year, but
well, you
you have
always go into camp with 4
yeah.
quarterbacks.
Okay, well,
Yeah. I think don't you think they could be just a little bit shell shocked from last year, given that they kind of went in slim and it really bit them in the butt until they
yep.
got their hands on Flacco. Maybe they're just running it through and they're like, well, for $1.8 million for Huntley and 4 million probably for Jameis, is that worth not having to scramble like we did last year if something goes wrong?
And they'll be
You
in your
start-
system already. They'll be used. Yeah. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Baltimore, we will continue to recycle your quarterbacks.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I was wondering. Well, I guess they do take 4 quarterbacks into camp. I just hope Watson gets ready.
I think DTR will be moved to the practice squad.
Hey, on a positive note on Watson getting ready, one of you guys were the ones that informed me that he's going to begin throwing.
Yes, that was supposed to actually happen today.
I-
Him and 2 VIP people flew down to LA with him, and the one was his actual personal quarterbacks coach. His name is Avery. Yeah, that's his personal quarterback coach, and David Njoku flew down to UCLA, and they were supposed to be throwing today. We don't know if that has happened or not. I'm waiting for a video of that, man, because it's supposed to be light throwing. They're actually calling it. Where did that go? Some kind of what did I put? Oh yeah, the carefully prescribed process.
Big words. Big words.
That's what they're calling it. So I mean,
they love following those medical protocols.
They do.
I don't know if it's just maybe shut up Cleveland fans for a minute. Hey man, the guy's gonna get out there. We still got so long till football actually starts. What is the possibility of him getting out there and throwing? Chad knows a lot more about this type of injury than we do. His surgery happened in November 21st of 23.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So for those that don't know, I'm a doctor of physical therapy by trade, I guess. So when it comes to and most of my career, the majority of my career was spent in sports and orthopedics care. So you get a pretty good feel for how these athletes really respond to injury and surgery from that job. And if somebody had just given me the guess, in fact, I might have last year posted that I would have probably guessed, I don't see him throwing for about 3 months at the earliest. And so if you're saying when was his surgery? November 21st.
Yes.
So we're almost on the dot,
Mm-hmm.
right? November, December to January to February 21st. So we're a month, less than a month after that. And he's getting out there to throw. And some of that doesn't have to do with the surgery. So I think you guys had mentioned earlier we were going to talk about that. We can do it now or we can do it later. But I think it's a little bit of a combination of the actual procedure he had to fix that fracture and the underlying rotator cuff pathology that he had been dealing with leading up to that point too, that knocked him out of a game or two. That probably all plays into the timetable. But this is around the time he should be gently throwing and then starting to work on his rotator cuff strength, stability, and that is good because that gives him an ability to ramp up and progress month by month as football activities start, like spring practices, OTAs, mini camps, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's June, I believe. June, July.
Yeah, so typically after the rookies come in, quarterbacks are there as well. I would be shocked if he does anything at that point, even just trying to throw passes to on just on drills at that point. But maybe that's another reason why they now have 3+ quarterbacks rostered to be able to come in for those early practices with the rookies.
Well, Stefanski and Ken Dorsey did fly down there last week, and they had a conversation with them. Supposedly went really well. They obviously talked about what their ideal things are to happen with the offense, and everybody agreed on everything, which is great. That's great news. I wish I would have had a camera there for that to see how that went. But as well as they're saying that he's going to be ready for camp.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's the longest recoveries are muscle surgeries. This bone fixation is the actual healing of that might have only taken about 6 weeks. But the fact that there's soft tissue damage, swelling, weakness over that course of time while you can't really move around, that all has to recover. That's what really slows down your ability to get back into action after something like this.
And again, I think the biggest thing is we talked about this before is we've seen it happen to Baker Mayfield, the shoulder injury, and he continued to play. It got worse. We put him in that weird shoulder sling thing. He still wanted to play. Stefanski let him play. I don't think we're going to put Cleveland in that predicament again. I mean, we watched it happen, so why do it again?
I hated that so much.
So did I. And then Cleveland, like, we didn't hate Baker for it, but everybody kind of had backlash towards Stefanski. Like, you're still playing him. What are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm still not sure. Like, I'll never really have a great explanation to, was that Stefanski kind of letting him dig his own grave? Like, if you're insistent on going out there, then you can, but this is on you if you do. Was that a young coach kind of just not willing to say, forget it, sit down, we'll fold this year and we'll get you back next year? Or was this like you're so difficult and so hard to coach as it is. If you want to go out there so bad, go out there, see what happens. Like, I don't know. I don't think looking back at it, I don't think there's any good explanation. Any way you explain it, there's something I have a problem with, whether it's Baker or Stefanski or something, and the overall outcome. But you always get the feeling of like there's somebody in that building, whether it's Barry or Stefanski or both, who didn't see that kid as the future, and that's the only reason that was able to happen.
Set him up for disaster.
Yeah, I think it was both didn't see him as the future. Did Watson try to play hurt and he said he was okay and then wasn't okay? And then the coach, after he said he wasn't okay, tried to play it. He's like, no, you're done. So I think that's kind of Kevin's personality. He's like, well, if you say you're okay, you're okay. And then if you show that you're not okay, especially this investment they put in, I think he learned. It's what this seems like this regime is doing. They're learning from past mistakes. So I think once they saw that Watson wasn't okay, they said, "Dude, you're not okay," and just sit back and chill, as opposed to do what they did with Baker and just let him play.
And to be
And he
honest with
sat
you,
longer, and he played better when he came back. So maybe
Hmm.
you're right. Maybe they are progressing in their thought process, which is nice. I will never kill a coaching staff, GM, or anybody for making a young mistake. What I'll kill them for is repeating the mistake or not learning from it, not showing some ability to change your thinking and get better.
I could agree with that.
I agree.
You know, and the greatest news of all is our AFC division rivalry is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and obviously they got Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, two of the most
Yes.
sacked quarterbacks in the league. Seriously,
And
they're
and
the top
I
then
actually
two.
didn't know that. Do you have
Oh
those
yeah.
stats? I didn't know that.
Oh, they're definitely the two top rated.
yeah, I know Russ took a lot of sacks last year. I think that was his problem.
Let's see
And
how
I think
many.
Justin obviously held on to the ball too long, and his line sucked last year, so
Mm-hmm.
that was a bad combination.
That's the first thing that pops up. How many times has Justin
Um,
Fields been tackled? 111 times.
Yeah, he and the difference is too, Justin Fields, he can run with the ball, so I get why he's holding on to it, and he's not that great of a processor and passer, so that's sort of going to be his game, is holding on to it. What's kind of crazy is Russell Wilson has always had the ability to move around and run, not the way that somebody like Justin Fields runs. But I heard a good interview with Mark Schlereth highlighting that, you know, the idea that Russell Wilson, when he was a successful runner, was at his kind of athletic peak in his early 20s. And that was an era where just defensive ends and outside linebackers, edge rushers in general, just did not have quite the oomph that they have now a decade or so later. And Russell Wilson still takes off as if he's still a 23-year-old, and if edge rushers are just not going to catch him, but they just catch him now every time.
He's
So
been
he just
sacked
hasn't gotten over that, like, I can't do this anymore. I got to get rid of the ball.
527 times. Russell Wilson has been sacked.
Oh my
and
God.
last year, his
Wow.
career.
Yeah, his career, yeah.
Jeez,
But think about it.
Wow.
Justin Fields has been in the league, what, 4 years now?
100.
And 111 times? Russell Wilson's
Yeah,
been here
and
quite a while. I mean,
Steelers
Yeah.
line isn't that good either, so that doesn't help.
their
I mean,
offensive
that was
line is not.
yeah, that's what I mean. The offensive line wasn't as good last year. That's not going to be good for Pickens.
On
He's going to
devil's
get more.
advocate side, it's still probably better than what they had with Pickens and Rudolph and
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Trubisky. So
Rudolph, yeah.
unfortunately, it's still an upgrade. I guess I'm relieved that it's not like an automatic upgrade. When people were talking about, I still have my questions coming off that Achilles, but people were talking about like Kirk Cousins going there, if he gets back to form, that is a terrifying thought.
yeah.
Falcons.
Comparatively to who he's replacing. But at best, to me, if Russell Wilson still has a little juice left, it's not for that much longer. And if it's for a year or two, they're going to have to pick between Justin Field. They're not going to be able to hold on to both. One of them is
No.
going to walk. So it's a pretty interesting situation, and it's one that I'm used to us being in. Right? That seems much more Browns pulling in some old, previously successful vet, and then some kind of failed runner that's like this RG3 and whoever, like that feels like a very Browns situation. And I guess I'm just thankful that it's not for the first time in a really long time.
Angel and
Facts.
I brought that up a couple times actually about how the Steelers is the Steelers. Now it's not the Browns, it's the Browns.
Yeah, but it seems like Tomlin will somehow, some way find them to get victories through this all. And then I got a lot of Pittsburgh fans as friends, and they're just like, Tomlin sucks. I'm like,
way.
Do you see Chad's face when you said that? He was
Yeah,
like,
they. I mean, they're.
No way.
I had somebody, a friend of mine. He Facebook messaged me. He's like, I'm done with the Steelers. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, Russell Wilson and Fields. Oh, it's a disaster. I'm like, yeah, but you got Tomlin. He's gonna coach them up. I mean, I'm not saying they're gonna be Troy Aikman and light things up, but he's like, nope, nope, nope. Tomlin doesn't know how to coach. I'm thinking like, dude, you're dumb. This is silly. I'm not talking to you anymore. So I stopped talking. But yeah, I have like maybe 3 or 4 Pittsburgh fans that they want Tomlin gone for some reason. I don't know why.
So do I.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I
yes.
also want
Yeah.
Tomlin gone.
Yeah, that's what it's insane. It's insane. I don't get it. I mean, as soon as he's gone, he'll get like 80,000 phone calls from people trying to get him on their team.
I just think if you are at all impressed by what Stefanski did with the crazy quarterback situations last year or the last
Yep.
few years in Cleveland, you have to be at least a little impressed with what Tomlin was doing with the quarterback
Yeah.
situation they've had there. Even when Ben Roethlisberger was still there, his last year or two, he was
It
a
was
shell
yeah.
of what we had to suffer through for 15 years. It's been a while since they've had even decent quarterback play there, and the guy just refuses to lose. They just refuse to lose. That's why when you get a steal on Justin Fields and you pay literally nothing for him,
Yeah,
and you
nothing.
get Russell Wilson for $1 million a year. I mean, Russell Wilson is getting Tyler Huntley money
Yep.
because of the situation he was in. I mean, for them, they struck gold. I guess I'm just relieved that there's still questions and there's still a little disarray. But I think if you're a Steelers fan, you have to expect you're going to get better quarterbacking than you got out of your guys last year.
And still made the playoffs with it too.
Yeah. My
As
biggest thing
usual.
is I'm not really scared of the Steelers. What I think is going to happen is they're going to bring Russell Wilson in for that 1 year. Justin Fields is going to get some playing time, but they're going to be like, hey, dude, you're going to sit here, you're going to watch, you're going to learn this offense. This isn't Chicago. We're not in shambles. Well, they kind of are, but they're not as bad as the Bears. I think Justin Fields, not this year coming up, but next year, they'll probably rebuild their offensive line and start dominating again, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I know a lot of people are like underselling this, but I
I
think
hate saying that. I'm sorry.
I hate no, but I think I'm thinking more long term. Like if it does work out and Justin Fields somehow it clicks for him there, Tomlin's going to be there for another 20 years, and then we're just going to be battling. And hopefully it'll be like the Browns in Pittsburgh, and it'll be an actual rivalry where our coach is here for 20 years too, but and we're actually punch each other, and then it'd be a battle. But I'm hoping that I'm wrong. But I like Fields there. I've always thought Fields would go there, and him being there, I think he'll get his head on straight. Hopefully.
Yeah, it's tough to have another Buckeye in Steelers. It's tough to be a Browns and a Buckeyes fan at the same time because there's probably 3 times as many Buckeyes that end up playing for the Steelers, the Bengals, probably maybe even more for the Ravens than end up right here in orange and brown. And that's kind of always a tough pill to swallow.
Right.
It really is, honestly. To see them go to a rivalry team, knowing how faithful these Ohio fans in general are. You just watch that and
sometimes I think they just do it just on purpose. They're like, hey, we've got these guys with similar grades. We should definitely take the kid from Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
Browns fans are going to hate that.
And then, like, when we draft somebody from Michigan, like I made a post one time. I'm like, what would it be like with Blake Corum and Chubb in the backfield?
Oh yeah,
everybody's like, no,
he's overrated. I saw that. Just like, nah, guys, let's calm down.
We struggle to separate. We really do struggle to separate.
Like when we drafted Braylon Edwards, everybody's like, I'm never going for Braylon Edwards. It's like, come on, guys, relax, relax, people.
Give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. You want to go back to another break, then come back and talk about the Watson injury?
Yes.
You got that good, like go in depth with what's going on in that bone.
Yeah, we'll do surgery, short-term, long-term implications, and give everybody the info.
I actually have a picture of that. I think it's actual picture of his shoulder, like a drawn out one.
Nice.
Oh, we'll show that so everybody can see it. All 0 people right now. Yeah, we'll be right back.
We'll be right back. Bye.
What is up, everybody? Mike Wilkes here from the Bearded Browns podcast, letting you know that we're going to be working with Mistakes on the Lake Clothing. They have everything you need. Why not check them out? If you want to go to their store, it's 4542 Liberty Avenue in beautiful Vermilion, Ohio. You want to contact them? Their phone number is 440-670-3145. They have everything from Cleveland to Columbus gear. They have Lake Erie gear. Why not check it out? It's all great stuff you can get for your wife, your kids, your newborn. They even have onesies, shirts that say good moms and dads don't raise Michigan fans, just Ohio stuff, and it's awesome. So be sure to check them out. They have everything you need. Even the candles, custom coasters, can koozies, wine tumblers, phone grips, everything, stickers. It is awesome. Check them out. Do not be the mistake on a lake and regret this decision. Go and check them out.
Disappear here in a minute.
Who's just going to disappear in a minute?
Yeah.
Nobody.
I am waiting for
I'm
it.
so used to like who's gonna be me or Chad, me or Chad.
Nobody. This
What
is a
is
show
up?
without interruptions, just so
No
everybody's aware.
interruptions. Yes, we're a perfect show. No technical difficulties. So Chad, our doctor, which got to get in depth here of what is going on with Watson. What is the long term impact? What can he do to come back sooner, if anything? Tell us what's going on, Chad, because people like me have no clue other than we want him to be in camp.
Yeah, and I would expect him to be. I think that's the typical. Not only is it not just normal general knowledge what's happening to these players, it's so misreported all the time. Injuries where he's got a separated shoulder when he actually had a fractured shoulder or a dislocated shoulder. Those terms get mixed and mushed around in the media, and because of, I think, a lot of times privacy rules, they're not corrected exactly. But for Deshaun, his earlier injury in the year, which I think was a rotator cuff strain, which is also what they would call a tear. That's just a higher grade strain. Was what kept him out a little bit in the game you mentioned earlier in Indianapolis, where he's like, give me my shot. I'm going to be good to go. I can't feel it. The pain's okay. And then he just went out there and the arm just didn't launch. He couldn't release the ball. And they decided, 2 plays into the game, like, we're pulling him. Let's just hold off. I think that's more of a complicating factor. It's crazy that it was on the same arm and totally unrelated to the injury he left the season an IR with, which was a glenoid fracture, which I think you guys said you'd put a picture up for it.
Yeah,
And essentially what this is, Yeah, perfect. Essentially, what this is your shoulder is essentially this portion of the shoulder, not counting your shoulder blade and your collarbone. This portion of the shoulder is that ball and socket joint where you got a ball at the end of your humerus and you have that socket attached to your essentially shoulder blade sitting there as the cup for your arm. And um, how this would usually happen is with like a blunt fracture. You could have this happen on a hit where a player hits into your arm. It's most likely going to happen on a tackle. And what's going to happen most of the time is your shoulder, the ball of your shoulder is actually going to hit the socket with a thump. And that's what's actually going to fracture the socket is your own bone hitting that little
Another bone.
cup. Yeah. And it happens in other parts of the body. It's sometimes how you get like a tibial plateau fracture in your knee, which some people may have heard of. But essentially, yeah. So he ended up fracturing the cup, and what they'll basically do for this for his surgery, which they'll usually do either same day if they know it's wrong, or they'll have to wait at least a couple of days for the swelling to go down because they don't want to cut into your shoulder while it's swollen and inflamed. So that's why you'll sometimes see a guy has his surgery, the next night or a week, 2 weeks later. So that happens a lot. It also explains why they finished Nick Chubb's surgery and then they didn't do his second one for like 6 more weeks because they have to let some recovery happen. But for Deshaun's, when you have this kind of a fracture, a bone injury is not all that bad. When you have this kind of a fracture, what they'll typically do is just put a small pin in it to hold those two pieces together. And then they immobilize you so you don't accidentally irritate it or move something free. And eventually your own two bones start to grow back into one another because they're touching, because they're connected. I could not find anywhere, again, because of privacy stuff, they're always pretty vague on these surgeries. I couldn't tell if they put in a plate, a pin, or a screw. But either way, it sounds just like the construction that you're thinking of, either a small bone screw or they like knock in a pin to bring the two together, or they'll put a plate maybe on the backside that fixates that into place. You're immobilized for probably several weeks to avoid irritating it. Then after that, from a PT standpoint, you would start to work on gaining back your range of motion. So you can start moving the arm in all different angles, externally, internally, up overhead. And then doing some maybe light isometric work with the muscle so that you fire the muscle, but there's not a lot of movement with it. Often, as I said before, you're looking at probably for a surgery like that about 12 weeks plus before you can really get through enough recovery of strength, recovery of motion to go into full activity without just hurting something else. The last thing you want to do is rush throwing and actually hurt your rotator cuff because it's not ready to throw because you just haven't been able to take it through that kind of activity yet. So it sounds like that's where he's at now, which is great. And I would say from a PT perspective, the long-term problem with this is that anytime you crack a joint, you have cartilage covering it, which if people don't know, it's just like a soft, almost glassy coating that helps avoid friction on all of it's on all of your joints, and it's like a coating that allows your joint to move smoothly. Well, that if he cracked the glenoid, chances are, especially if it was displaced, he cracked that coating. On the positive side, you don't put a lot of weight through your shoulder, so it's not like it will wear down and break down. But on the negative side, over years of him moving on what's now not a perfectly smooth surface, as if you had like chipped some ice or chipped some glass and you're constantly rubbing at it, there's a chance there will be some wear away. But I would expect at least for several years, that's probably not something that'll impact his throwing. And then again, on
WD-40 on them?
yeah, these days they have so many different things to help facilitate growth, whether it's stem cells or microfracture surgeries. They have their own medical versions of that. But man, if it were just that easy, Just give it a little lubrication.
They're
But I
gonna.
would expect it's going to be a pretty good recovery. I think this is something that if he's throwing now, I would say that's pretty on schedule. I think 3 months was sort of that borderline of the earliest you should probably be doing real muscle activity after something like this. And so now it being close to 4 months later, if he's starting to throw now, you're looking at probably I don't know, let's just estimate like 6 month period before things should be functionally 100%. And we know in professional sports, people practice, people play on their way to that level. It's not like they're going to say, oh, you're 85%, like we can't get you out to practice. He would probably practice at that level at, 75, 80% of full go. But at least they have the ability now to monitor that and kind of gauge his progress with both his therapy and his football activities at the same time. So what do we got 6 months from now? Yeah, so that's would be into September. You might start seeing him by the end of September getting close to 100%. I'd expect him to make it all the way through training camp. I'd expect him to start the season. I just would not be shocked, much like what we saw out of somebody like Joe Burrow this year, where he started the season with a calf injury, but anybody that watched him knows he wasn't at 100%. And he worked through September, and then into October, you saw, okay, now we're seeing Joe Burrow
Yep.
able to launch the ball, and he played himself into that position because he was beyond where it was super detrimental for him to play, but he just couldn't be 100% himself. So I would tell fans, don't be shocked if he starts the season and he's not what he looked like those last 3 games before he got hurt.
No,
If
they don't
he
want to
does
hear
look,
that.
yeah, if he does look good, if he does look that good, that's a great sign. Like, well,
Yeah.
okay, now we might be seeing the real Deshaun coming back this season. That Deshaun that we sort of think that the Browns expected to trade for. I would just say though, if he does look a little bit hindered to start the season, like I kind of felt like that this year. He looked, I think maybe it was a little more rust and things like that this year, but he looked a little bit shaky for the first, 1 or 2 games of this season.
Yeah, that Tennessee game he looked really good in. That was
Yeah.
probably where the rust was coming off.
Yeah, and then he played well against the Cardinals, and he had his ups and downs in the Ravens game, but he ended that Ravens game throwing 14 passes,
Yeah.
complete passes in a row to lead the Browns to a win there. That's the Deshaun that I think, where we really need to get back in order to win this trade and be successful. But yeah, I would say, and the other thing is we have him for several years. They're not going to push this. We're impatient with it because we're still just anxiously waiting to see that Deshaun, and we got it stolen from us that first year, and we got kind of robbed of it for the second half of last year or longer. And I think we're pretty anxious, but the organization, I'm sure, is thinking we want him to be successful this year and next year and next year, enough
And
to where we can sign him for another several years. And so they're gonna play it chapter by chapter as he recovers. But again, I would say if he's throwing now, we should be expecting to see more high level activities, by the time spring comes along, and then more maybe even contact stuff late into the summer en route for him to returning for game 1.
is it easy to re-injure once the healing is
I mean, he may have a chance for some chronic rotator cuff stuff, but we already saw a little bit of that last year. I think every quarterback's a little bit at risk for that. But I think the way this type of fracture happens, he may, as he gets older, have a shoulder that crackles and pops a little bit more than the average person. But I don't think this should really be a re-injury case. Chances are this fracture will heal. If the pin is in a good position, they'll leave it. If it starts to cause inflammation or rub or something in another offseason, they'll just open it back up and remove it. But this is not the type of injury where I would expect he has very high re-injury potential, and it's also not one that, as long as he recovers the muscles well and he doesn't have any kind of like mental fear of getting hurt again, I don't see any reason why he can't come back to much better than even what we've seen, much closer to his real athletic level.
Yeah, because excuse me, you did see him throwing a lot of balls at the ground. Like he was wincing almost as soon as he threw the ball. It had to have been the shoulder because that's not Deshaun Watson. The dude throws rockets, but I was skeptical and weirded out about it because, like I said again, we watched the shoulder thing with Baker, and that was a huge concern of mine. I'm over the whole money part of this whole ordeal. Honestly, it's done.
It's not my money.
Yeah, it's guaranteed money.
That's
to
the
the
way
guy.
I look at it.
We're
Like
not
fans are
paying
getting
for it.
mad. It's like he's got all this money. It's like you're not paying for it. Like Jimmy is. like
The
like
guy
don't get
has-
mad. Like I want him to be on the field and perform in what we saw in Houston. So hopefully he does that.
Yes, that's what I want.
Yeah, as far as the money for me, it's I get why people are concerned about it because it kind of weighs down your salary cap. Although we've already seen he would be willing to do what some of these other guys have done and shifted to bonuses or whatever the case may be. The money was just something that he had a lot of options. There was 5 or 6 teams trying to get their hands on him. He preferred to stay somewhere in the South because
Yep.
that's where he's from and where he's used to playing, between Georgia and then Clemson and then Texas or whatever. This was the move. The money was the move that the Browns said, hey, we're very serious about you. We believe in you. We are willing to bet on you. And it's what got him here. So if you're mad at the money, that's fine. If you don't care for him that much, but it was the way he was going to end up here, realistically.
Only way. Yep.
And not many of us would turn down that type of, hey, we want you here. We're willing to guarantee you something that other companies won't guarantee you. That's hard to turn down if you look at the place you're going to be going to work and you think, not bad. This would be a pretty good place to play.
Right.
So,
especially when he comes out here in the summertime, like, oh, all right, I can deal with this. This isn't bad.
And till winter hits, and then he's like, well, "Why didn't I stay in Atlanta?"
like,
Bro, where's
it's
this
so cold.
dome?
I don't know. From the Cleveland winters I've been seeing, I was there for Christmas.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Weather. That's
Yeah, it
not so
wasn't
bad,
bad.
right?
Yeah, it wasn't bad for Christmas.
I have zero complaints. You guys know what I do for a living. I have
Yeah,
zero
you-
complaints about this
you-
winter.
That's job security for you.
This is nothing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's encouraging to hear. I thought maybe there'd be some type of a serious. I mean, it's serious. I'm not saying it's not serious, but I'm more or less worried about time frames. But like you say, if he's throwing today, that means he's on track to hit up midi camp and then
Mhm.
all that fun
It's
extracurricular activities.
For that, sorry, he actually plans to be in Cleveland during all the off-season workout programs, from
Mhm.
April 15th, and all the there's 2 weeks of conditioning after that. So he said,
Yeah, and if he's throwing now, he probably won't be on the bike. He'll probably be doing some light throwing there, and then a little later in the season, like I said, he'll be doing more drill throwing, and then by summer he'll be getting ready to take contact. It'll be good.
And then we'll be talking. Should we start the starters in the the Hall of Fame game?
I'm gonna try to say this doctor's
No,
name. He's a
you-
world renowned doctor. His name is Dr. Neil L. Attachi, I think. World renowned. The Browns have worked really close with him. They've been out there and talked to him several times with Deshaun as well. So gives you kind of a promising hope that everything's going to work out. They say world renowned and doctor. I mean, take it.
Yeah, I mean, take it. I mean, Browns are paying for it, so they're probably like, we get the best doctor ever, and then just touch this quarterback's shoulder and just heal it, type of thing. So, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited. I think he's, if healthy. Obviously, health is a big. I think he's going to prove a lot of fans wrong. Every time I post something on Facebook about him, I hear a lot of mean stuff.
Yeah, it's just been an unfortunate series of unrelated things keeping him either off the field or from playing at his top potential. And I get why people are frustrated. That's pretty frustrating.
Yep.
But I also know that they signed him to be here for 5 years with the expectation that year one could be tough. And, you don't anticipate an injury. Anybody, when the Jets signed Aaron Rodgers, they didn't say like, I don't know, should we not sign him? What if he gets injured? Like you just can't you just can't put a team together, especially at quarterback. Patrick Mahomes could go out and tear his ACL in week 1 next year. And it's like the only real difference between that is they've gotten some success out of him already.
Yeah.
But the injury itself is just random and there's just nothing you can do. That season will probably stink for them.
Then they throw Chad Henne in and he beats us. Awesome.
Yeah, it's scripted. It'll be part of the script. Part of the
so many
NFL
people
script.
So many people were trying to wash that from their memory for all time, and there you go.
Not only
bring it up.
Was it Kansas City, it was Chad Henne, which is a Michigan guy. Like that was just
rubbing it in
the face.
Rubbing it in. Yeah.
And better news, I'm going to touch base with a couple things really quick. Browns are talking about getting a Hall of Fame game again for the preseason, which I think would be cool out in Canton. I know you won't be able to make it. You know what? We're fine. You're here. You're going to make it.
I'd talk about it. Didn't they just do a Hall of Fame game?
Yeah, last year. Trying to get it 2 years in a row.
Wow. Speaking of early games, did you guys hear about the overseas game slip?
By Hurst, right?
By Hurst.
Yeah.
I did not hear about that.
Apparently, in an interview, who did you do that? Was this with Cleveland Browns Daily or something?
Oh, it was that local channel. Oh, I must have missed it.
Apparently, he was doing an interview, and in the interview, they were just asking him about his summer and asked him something about, do you have any vacations planned? And he said something like, well, I guess since I don't have to worry about going to Brazil, I'll plan my vacation to another part of the country. And it was like, I don't think
so we're going to commercial break. Let's go to commercial break.
So apparently it sounds like the beginning of the season is going to be the Browns,
Philly, probably
maybe Philadelphia Eagles, possibly in Brazil, which oops.
Yep, they're with your signing bonus, Mo. Good job, buddy.
There was reports even before that, like that the Browns were targeted to play in Brazil against Philly the first game.
Yeah, it looks like it's a lock, I guess. So
that's gonna be insane. What time do we have to wake up for that game?
I'll probably wake up around the same time. Where's Brazil?
I'm not even looking right now. I don't have the energy to do that right now. But
what time zone's on.
I wonder if it'll be a Monday night game.
It's Friday, Brazil. I believe. I think
it's Friday. It's a Friday game.
Game. So it'll be a Friday or Saturday.
Oh, I thought it was a regular season game. My bad.
No, it's the preseason. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the Hall of Fame game. Yes. That would be probably a Friday, Saturday, or Friday, Sunday, or Monday, I'd imagine.
Interesting. We'll see.
Oh, man. The world is shaped differently than I think is.
Are you a flat earther? Come on.
I had a discussion about that this past weekend at my mother-in-law's house. Well, I didn't. I heard it. I just was like, all right.
But I do not know if I brought this up. The camp will be at that Greenbrier Resort in White Sulphur, West Virginia again. That place did not look like a football camp when I seen it, but they looked like they were getting their grind in there. Do what you guys got to do. It looked like a mansion with a football field in the backyard, essentially.
Yeah, they said it's not really much around other than a restaurant inside the mansion, but keeps them out of trouble.
This is just a couple news things that I got. The joints. We've talked enough about those already today. Joint workouts will be done with the Vikings this year. I'm not against that.
I'm not against it either. They're not. I hope they get a quarterback besides Sam Darnold before we play him, so we can really get our defense rolling. But
yeah, they'll draft somebody.
Here's this is just a fun fact. The linebacker Devin Bush that we signed, his dad Devin Bush Sr. played for the Browns in 01 and 02. 01 through 02. I'm sorry.
He was a safety, no?
Yeah, he was a safety. I did have a picture of them both in the Cleveland Browns locker room. Yeah. It's him, his dad, and his jersey, or all of his gear, and his son sitting there like one of those little kids outfits. It's kind of cool. I
My
meant to
God,
put that up here,
we're
but
getting so old.
yeah, I looked at it the other day. Somebody was born in like, what year was it? I was like 98 or something like that, 99. I was like, are you serious? The Browns just came back. Come on. Like,
He was born.
how old are you, Chad?
Old enough to know that I was down at Ohio University when little Devin Bush was a baby.
You don't look that
That's
old.
that's what throws me off is I'm like, oh, 2002. I went to Ohio University that year.
Oh,
I'm like, oh God, I was
Dang.
down in college.
I graduated in 04.
Woof, man.
High school.
Yeah, 2000 for me, high school.
I'm the youngest
Cleveland
one on the
Public.
show, but I look the oldest. That's horrible.
It's all this.
Yeah, it's the
That's all.
gray.
Well, I
probably
can't
look-
shave it.
We probably look all exactly the same if we just.
Yep.
I went and got like 3 inches knocked off of it, and I was like, man, if I could just get it like right into here, I would have no
The gray
grays.
beard is cool though. The gray beard is cool.
My wife liked it. Salt and pepper.
That's all you need is the wife to like it.
I don't think a gray beard makes anybody look young, but I think a gray beard is cool, and that's a step
Distinguished.
up. And what do you want to look 3 or 4 years younger or look good?
Cool.
Yeah.
I like how he said that too.
So in case you guys didn't know and are geographically stupid like me, I just looked and it is 10 o'clock p.m. in Brazil.
So
That is not what time I thought it would be.
An hour
10
ahead?
o'clock.
They're an hour ahead of you and 4 hours
Oh.
ahead of me.
Oh, yeah, I
Wow.
thought you're on the
No,
other side of the
grown up
states.
there. I was thinking
Yeah.
the opposite. I thought you said
I thought-
AM.
I thought it was going to be like
Yeah.
Central Time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be, way off. Wow, that's
Wow.
crazy.
Central Time, maybe Mountain
Oh.
Time, and I'm like, nope. Turns out South America goes way farther east.
Oh,
than I
yeah,
thought.
yeah. Wow. Dude, I went to Kentucky once. We were going to Mammoth Caves, and we asked the hotel to wake us up at 7 a.m. or whatever it was. And we're looking at our watches, and we're like, it's 8 o'clock. Why aren't they waking us up, you know? And they're like, where are you from? We're like, we're all from Ohio. What's the big deal? She's like, yeah, so
Oh,
you're
yeah,
an
we're
hour
behind.
behind. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, you're on that part of Kentucky. All right. See what we're doing here.
Thanks for waking us up early, buddy. It
Yeah.
is 7 o'clock.
While we do have Chad here, I did want to touch base with some Nick Chubb stuff. I know we didn't do a whole lot of research on this part of it, but it's happened to him before. I think the guy's a beast, and I'm hoping he's going to come back from it. That's obviously all of the world's wish. But September 29th, he had a medial collateral ligament and meniscus and medial capsule damaged. The team confirmed September 30th in a statement that Chubb was also going to need the second surgery, which we did talk about. That just sounds horrible. Medial collateral
That's a
ligament.
lot.
Jeez.
And then meniscus.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And medial capsule. What is a medial capsule?
So here's how I would describe all those things. So the meniscus is the rubbery cushion at the bottom of the knee that helps kind of take some of the force when you like hit the ground, for instance. So it's a rubbery kind of squishy, bouncy tissue that helps cushion the knee. The medial ligament is the bone that holds your tibia to your femur on the inside of the leg. Medial just means in the inside, basically. So that usually is something that's not even surgical unless it's really torn all the way apart. And of course, Nick dislocated his knee, which means the whole knee came apart from one another. The bones came completely apart. So it did probably completely tear. And then meniscus tears, they vary so much. It's not worth getting into how bad that is unless you knew how bad the tear was. It could be like a little tiny scrape, and it could be a huge chunk. It's worse if the force is coming down and your knee is like hitting than if your knee's pulling apart. That may not be quite as bad. And then your capsule is if you just imagine like a skeleton and you've got it all connected there by all your ligaments or what hold all the bones together. If you just took like a human saran wrap and you wrapped it around the knee so that everything stayed tight in there, your knee fluid and everything just was like kind of sealed in. That's what capsule is. It's kind of just like a coating that goes in all directions around the knee just to make your knee joint solid. And so it's not just like a ligament and a ligament on each side keeping it from rocking. It's after that's all on there, it's all just wrapped up because you have fluid in your joints and it's got to be kind of sealed in. And the capsule at some point connects with your ligaments and kind of becomes part of your ligaments too. So
am I the only one sitting there holding one knee and trying to bounce the other?
No.
I'm even doing it here too. Like as I'm talking, I'm like touching around my knee, like, oh. But the issue with we'll take a look at it another day because I'd like to see more of the details of the surgery so I can give a better answer. It's stuff I don't look into too early because it's so often misreported. But the farther along you go, the more likely somebody, whether it's Nick or somebody else, talks or gives approval to talk and say more of what happened. It happened with Aaron Rodgers last year. He had that Achilles repair, and then a short while later, they eventually were okay coming out and saying like, okay, so here's how they did it, and here's why we think it's going to heal so much faster. As he recovers and things start looking positive, I think they'll be more prone to tell us more about what they repaired in Nick. But I can say, looking back at his history and remembering that injury he came back from in college, it's literally the same thing. He dislocated the knee. I believe it was the same knee. He tore his meniscus, his ACL, and his capsule and other connective tissues. And I don't know, by some miracle, he came back and he was Nick Chubb in the NFL, in college and in the NFL. And I think same injury. I know they did 2 surgeries because they basically said the ACL looked not fully torn. So they were going to open him up, repair what they knew needed repair, look at the ACL while they were actually in there and decide what to do. And they decided, yeah, we're going to replace this ACL as well. So they let it heal for like 6 months or 6 weeks. And then they opened him back up, did the ACL alone. It does put him 6 weeks back from his potential rehab, but on the positive side, like doing all of that construction on a knee at the same time, maybe also could have been problematic. So I would say, I will be hopeful because Nick Chubb is somewhat superhuman. It's ironic that his comic book kind of identity is Batman, the only comic book character that doesn't have any super powers, because he does seem like he's kind of a mutant. He's a little bit superhuman, but I do think it is a stretch to expect the same Nick Chubb to come back, play a full season and beyond the way that we've always known him. So I would say from a Browns preparatory perspective, hopefully they are not counting on that and they are looking for some way to, if nothing else, take the load off him a little bit so he can not come out and do the workload he did before. They should be planning for life without Nick Chubb and hoping that when they're done, they just have a really talented, super filled quarterback room. Because if he does do what he did last time and comes back, I mean, it's hard to think of being a Browns fan without Nick Chubb at this point. Man, do I love that guy.
Yes. Angel, do not ask him the likelihood of it happening again for this one. We're just
no. I mean, obviously it can because it has.
Unfortunately, it's a different answer because I think the more times you injure the same thing, especially tissue, not bone, but actual like connective tissue, the more prone you're at re-injuring that thing. But he's so darn strong and so dedicated that, if he gets himself back, I'm sure he's going to give it his all. So, but I just think, it's almost like saying like, just, appreciate whatever we get back out of Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
And then just, love having Nick Chubb for as long as we can have him, because it's a long shot that he can get the career arc he might have had this not happened.
Oh yeah.
Pittsburgh. Dang you, Pittsburgh.
It's always Pittsburgh.
It's always Pittsburgh.
Never fails.
But
I did almost watch him walk out of that tunnel again, though.
Oh my gosh. It was cool to see him come out and smash the guitar. That was a heck of a
Yeah.
moment. But I expect him to be walking. This is going to affect him. His straight on power still might be Nick Chubb power. He may get a lot of speed back. While you rehab, you just sit there and work your muscles and work your muscles and
Mm.
work your muscles. And but when you watch like the type of weight he puts up in the gym,
Yeah.
I mean, he
That's
squats like I've never seen anything like it.
600-700 pounds. Yeah.
But his longevity is probably gone. He's not going to probably be able to do what Derrick Henry did. And if it weren't for this, I'd say, yeah, he's got a better chance than anybody to do this Derrick Henry, I never get slowed down thing. But now I just don't see how that's realistic. But I also think that it wouldn't be crazy for him to come back and give us a little bit more. So
All I got to say about Derrick Henry is he's about to get slowed down this year.
Yeah. Hopefully.
The Browns have done well against him somehow. I don't know
Yeah.
why. It seems like
2
our run
yards.
defense is never our strong point. But then you look at the stats against Derrick Henry, and it's like, did we just all hands on deck? Just everybody on Derrick Henry?
I could not believe that game, man. That was when I knew our defense was something special.
The real deal. They're the real deal, and they're almost all back. In fact, everybody impactful is pretty much back in the building.
Yep.
A lot of the guys who are gone were guys that just didn't play much or who were replaced by somebody who's just a little bit better. It's going to be pretty cool. And we got a tougher schedule, but it's going to be pretty cool to watch that team. The one thing the Browns fans have not had, I think, in decades is watching the same great group come back and actually progress as a unit.
Part of that
always a
comes
good one.
from keeping the same coaching staff consistently. Now you're able to grow continuity and teamwork and unity, and you keeping the same guys over and over again. Everybody knows each other and they know how to read each other. You're doing sign language as opposed to yelling. I mean, it all works for its benefit.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. Builds that class, the morale. We talk about that a lot. And it's getting built, and it's getting better and better every year, it seems. And I'm all for that as well. To watch these guys come in, and Kevin Stefanski's big thing is work. I like that. That's what these guys are doing. They're actually getting out there. They're working. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing, for the most part. I'm ready. I'm already ready for football.
Same.
Man,
All right. Is that it? That's all we have, huh?
that is
My notes are blank.
We're good. I just end with one more thing, and we don't have to really get into it, but I know it's going to get talked about this week before we have a chance to talk about it again, but I listened to the radio a little bit today because of the Jerry Jeudy thing. And I would say, we talked a little bit earlier about how Jerry Judy's looked at as a pretty big disappointment as far as because the expectations were so high. I heard a lot about questions, and this would be a great thing for us to get into another time. Questions about his contract, why they would give it to him now, and what we should be thinking about him. And I sent it to you guys. I don't know if you wanted to post it or something. And it's basically the salary number, the yearly salary number for all of the top quarterbacks in the league. And I just thought it was kind of interesting when you look at the fact that he's the 41 million guarantee. I think when you do all the math of the 4 years, it comes out to somewhere around 13,000 a year or so. So I would ask fans to kind of pay attention to what receivers get paid that kind of money, and probably try not to stack Jerry Jeudy next to CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson, who he's sort of connected with, because I think even the Browns don't think he's probably that, because they paid him as if he's, another maybe 2 full tiers below. But I think we always see that money and think like that's so much.
Yeah, they didn't even pay him Amari Cooper money.
No, and they paid him for 4 years, which means if by some brilliant stroke of luck he ends up being Amari Cooper, they're in real good shape right now. And if he doesn't, they paid him what? Who's closest? Darnell Mooney, DeAndre Hopkins, who's come on,
About
getting towards the end.
done. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Cortland Sutton, Alan Lazard, Tyler Lockett.
Tyler
Those are the
Lockett,
guys.
yeah.
And Tyler Lockett and Cortland Sutton are actually both making a couple million more than him. But that's like the tier of receiver they paid him like. So I heard a lot of people like, why did they pay him so much? Like he's not a number one receiver. And it's like, well, they sort of didn't pay him number one receiver money. They sort of paid him like really good wide receiver 2
Mm-hmm.
money. You know, he didn't get DK Metcalf money. He got Tyler Lockett money, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And
so
after
I just wanted to
assessing
bring
it,
that up
that's
because I
fair.
thought it was interesting.
I think that's fair. I the only downfall is we didn't even see him in a Browns uniform yet. We didn't see him
Yeah.
run one single play.
Oh, yeah. I get the questions. I think it's fair for anybody to question it. Like, is it going to work out? I think a lot of people are panicked by the contract because they're like, that much guaranteed, like 41 guaranteed. And they're like, well, it could be up to 60. I'm like, you want it to be up to 60
Because that means he's balling.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
means he's balling if it's 60.
If he makes that 58, it means he probably hit 1,000 yards each season. He hit, more
10.
than 8 touchdowns. He
Yep.
hit whatever. So
But he had
we
like
made the
700
playoffs
something
again.
last year, or yeah, 7. I think he had like 700 something yards last year.
Yeah, and
That's
he
what-
had the most he had was 978, and I think that
Yep.
was Russ's first year, maybe.
Yeah, 2 years ago. I have him up
Yeah.
here. He had as a rookie, he had 856 as a rookie, 467 as a sophomore, but he only played 10 games. 972 as a junior, and then last year 758. So
yeah,
not what you want out of a first rounder, but heck,
it's
for
Denver
13
as
million.
well. You got to take
Yeah,
that
but-
into consideration.
For Russ taking 35,000 sacks, he still got that many yards. That's pretty impressive.
That is pretty impressive.
Russ has more sacks than yards.
All right, that's it for me. I feel pretty good.
Awesome. And we are going to try to have Chad on as much as possible because
Whenever he's
him.
available.
Yes, whenever you're available, Chad, that'd be awesome, man. I wasn't going to say nothing, but now you're stuck. That's how I was going to
He's
do
got
that.
the
Wait till the end of the
beard.
show.
I can
Why
never
not?
shave again.
I was wondering that because no, he said he was going to shave last week and he didn't still.
Yeah, and
I
it
held
looks a little longer today.
I held off.
Than
I
last
held off.
week.
Yes.
Nice.
But all right,
Yeah.
guys, it was a pleasure. It's been amazing. Looking forward to the next time.
Absolutely. We will see
Cool.
everybody soon. We'll let you know. And thank you again for joining us. And we will be back on every other platform as well next week, I hope. So just follow us on YouTube for now. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.